Welcome to Introduction to Game Development. This is Computer Science 303 at Missouri State University. My name is Matthew, and I will be showing you how to use UDK. Now, I will begin this video, as always, with the disclaimer that I am not an expert. I am learning just like you. Now, this is our third video in the series for the course. First, let's go ahead and open our work from the last lab where we used BSP brushes and point lights to generate a basic layout for our level. Now, you might have saved that file anywhere. In this case, I have mine saved to the desktop here. And so, just to make sure we have the most recent version in our content directory in the UDK install, I'll go ahead and copy this. And I'll go to my shortcut to the maps folder in my content directory. I'll go ahead and be saving everything in the CSC 303 labs. And I will go ahead and paste it here, just to make sure it's the most recent version. Copy and replace, yes. Now I'll go ahead and close this, and now that I know I have the most recent version of our lab map in my contents directory, I'll go ahead and open the UDK Editor. Now, in the case that you don't have your work from the last lab available to you at your computer, if you're in class, I'll go ahead and give you a copy of the map that I'm beginning with now. Otherwise, if you're not in class or you're working from home or whatever, and you need to generate that level again, just as a refresher, I'll go ahead and open it here so I can indicate the things that we put in there. So here's our level. I'll go ahead and close this. Last time we created a platform right here. We created a room with a door right here. And then as well, we made 2-point lights, this light right here, and then a light on the inside. And we created a player start position right here, and a skeletal mesh for a size reference. And then also, if you notice, there's the green box on the outside here, and that is our light mass importance volume. In addition to these features that we put into our level, we also adjusted within the view option in your toolbar. We went to game properties and set the game type to UT Deathmatch and the kill Z value to 0. Now, so if you need to create the map again, then those would be the changes you need to make before beginning. Now, if you remember last time as we added our brushes, we spoke about how this blue and white checkered pattern is the default material that's applied to all BSP brush geometry that you put into your level. Now, today we're going to be learning how to use new and different kinds of materials on our level surfaces. Now, I would like to draw a distinction here. There's a difference between textures and materials. A texture is just an image. It's a Targa file, a .tga file that you could make in Adobe Photoshop or GIMP or whatever photo editing software you like using. But the material itself is what we actually apply to any surfaces in our level. We can't apply a texture directly, but rather we only apply materials. And the material consists of a number of different material properties, and it will normally have 3 separate textures involved in it. That'll be the diffuse map, the normal map, and the specular map. Now, normally you will not have to deal with that, since the artist will just generally provide you with the files you need for it. Now, we can go ahead and open our content browser, and now, we didn't really look at the content browser too closely last time, but if you look under object type here, it's this second field on the top here, this second column. You have a number of different checkboxes for what you might want to include in the listing here below. And so right now we're including all 53 different types of content that we might put into a game. This is all listed here. But let's go ahead and go to materials. Now there's a lot of different materials here, and you can browse through them as you like. You can also refine this down a bit with a search field up here. So in our search field here, we could just type, say, for instance, wall. Now here's a number of different materials that would work well, say, for on walls or floors or ceilings, and you could use them creatively however you like, really. And once we pick one out, though, we can go ahead and we can double click on a material. If you double click on a material, this brings up the material editor. And I'll go ahead and click on the middle here and I'll zoom out with my mouse wheel. And it's kind of confusing looking. It's a number of different boxes and nodes all plugged into different fields. And I'll tell you right now, there's a lot you can do with this. You can make your own materials from scratch doing this. And if you want to do more advanced features with materials, like to affect the sound of footsteps or anything like that, then you'll need to become more familiar with the material editor. However, we will not be focusing on it very much at all. So I'll go ahead and close it for now. And so now that we have just any material chosen here, and you can pick any that you like, and I'll go ahead and just go with this first one here, this block wall 02, or M underscore block wall underscore 02 underscore D. And so I have it selected, and I'll go inside my room here, and there's a number of different ways we can apply this material to the surfaces in our level. So, for instance, probably the easiest way for everyone would just be to move your mouse over the material, left-click, and just drag it onto a surface. Now that it's on that surface, we can see it right away, and that's probably the easiest way to go ahead and put the material on that on a surface. But once it's on there, I'll go ahead and minimize my content browser here. Once it's on there, then there's a number of different ways that we could apply that same material to other surfaces in the level. Probably the fastest way, once you have a material in the level, is if you press the Alt key, and right-click on a material, then it will have selected that material. And then if you Alt and left-click on another surface, it will automatically apply it. Yeah, there we go. Takes just a moment. And you can do it like that, just by pressing Alt, right-click to select the material, and Alt, left-click to place the material. So we have a start here of just a normal brick wall. And another way that we might apply materials to the surfaces in our level, once we have a material in there, if you can't remember that Alt right-click and Alt left-click to grab and basically paste that material onto another surface, you can also right-click on any surface, and you'll see here apply material M underscore block wall underscore 02 underscore D. Now, it's always just going to show what the most recent material that you've applied is. So, any material you might have used, the most recent one will always be available to you as a right-clicked apply material option. Now, we'll go ahead and add that to the floor, just like I had there. Now, we can add this to as many as we like, but you'll notice it doesn't really look quite right, because it looks like the material itself, let me get in there, the material itself is only, say, from here to here, that tall, and it's just repeating that texture over and over again across that material. And there's a number of different properties we can change to adjust the scaling or the positioning of that material on the surface. So we can go ahead and right-click on it and go to Surface Properties. There's other ways to access these surface properties as well. We can simply double-click on any surface that has a material and it'll automatically open. Or we can just right-click and press F5. So there's F5. And then, so once you're actually in the surface properties, though, we have a number of different boxes here. We have pan, we have rotation, and so for instance, if we were to pan it, the U applies to lateral motion, and the numbers are just the increment for how much you're moving it. So, this is just moving it 1 unit at a time, 4 units at a time, 16 units at a time, 64 units at a time. And then this V, these row of buttons below it, this is for panning up or down. And if you hold Shift, then that'll actually do it in the reverse direction. So, say for instance I press just the 16 here, it'll move it 16 units to the right. If I hold Shift and press 16, then it'll do it 16 units to the left. You can as well also choose a custom value. So say we wanted to pan everything to the left by 24 units. That's an option for us. So you can do some fine-tuning to get it precisely exactly where you want it. Now, we also have the scaling feature down here. Now the scaling, for simple scaling, we can choose a number of different options. 1.0 is just the default, but we can also make it larger, and we'll have to apply it to see it. Oh, and so now we can see it's twice the size of what it was before. And we can go even larger and apply it. And so we've made this quite a bit larger now by using the scaling feature here. Now the simple scaling will always do both the length and width of it, or the length and height of it rather, equally. So it's being scaled uniformly in all directions. However, you can also do a custom scaling. So for instance, say we wanted taller blocks, we could say 4 for the U, and let's make the blocks twice as tall for each brick. So we'll go ahead and say 8. Now if we say that and say apply, and so now we've just non-uniformly scaled that texture, so we have a more block shape to our bricks on that material. And you'll notice we've only affected this for that one surface that we had selected when we chose to go into our surface properties. So if we wanted to apply changes in the properties to the materials to other surfaces, we could have, gone, to a single wall like we did, or instead you can hold Control, and there we go. While you're holding Control and you select any other surfaces, then you can essentially choose as many surfaces as you want. My computer is stalling a little bit. And now that we're looking at the ceiling, I'll choose that surface as well. And let's also grab the surface where our door is as well. So while holding Control, I've just selected a number of different surfaces, all of the interior surfaces of our room. And I'll go and say right click, and I'll apply material. So now they all have that brick. It hasn't adjusted the properties for that one we've done, but now if we go ahead and go to F5 again to open our surface properties, we can go ahead and, while we have multiple surfaces selected, we can actually choose, we can say fit, and it'll automatically try and fit that material to the size of each of those surfaces. Or we can say planar and apply that, so now they all are perfectly aligned. And if we were to do any scalings or pans, then it would apply to all of these surfaces simultaneously. So say for instance, so pressing 16, now everything is moving 16 units to the right on every material on the interior of this room. And so I'll go ahead and reset what we had here. We're going to apply that. Those were our settings from earlier. So now we have these bricks all non-uniformly scaled and all applied perfectly to all of the surfaces on the interior of our room. And also, so we've done pan, scaling, and alignment with multiple surfaces selected. As well, we could do rotations. So we've just turned everything by 45 degrees by using the rotation features here in the top right of our surface properties. Or we can do 90 degrees. Or we can flip upside down, or flip left and right. Or we can do some custom degree amount rotation here as well. So I'll go ahead and close this now, since we have a number of surfaces already colored here on the interior of our room. So now that we have the basic idea of how to apply a material, how to stretch it out uniformly or non-uniformly, we can rotate it, we can scale it and pan it however we like. Let's go ahead and go back to our content browser to look at some more of our options here for the kinds of materials that we would want to use. So where did there it is. So here's my content browser. And so last time we chose this m_blockwall_02_D. But you can use any combination of materials that you'd like to, really, for your surfaces. So let's go ahead and find maybe some kind of tile work. And we could actually also search, say, floor. So here's an interesting floor. We'll call this, let's see, this is m_floors_blend modulation_master_02. Now, in a moment here, we'll actually be creating our own materials, and you don't have to name yours as complicated as they have. But if you want to replace any material that you've already put on some surface, I'll go ahead and select our new material here, and I'll drag it over. And so now we have this one new material that we just put in. And it automatically replaced the material we had there. We don't have to worry about that material that was there previously. It's just replaced it completely. It's not covering it, it's just replaced it. And so while it's selected, I'll go ahead and F5 again, so I can get to my surface properties. And we might scale it a little bit, or pan it a little bit. And so let's go down to simple scaling, and let's say 1. Apply. So here is our basic floor again, at the normal default size. I'll go ahead and close this, and we'll go back to the content browser again, and let's find something else also for our ceiling, so we're not just reusing the same texture over and over again. So here's floors BSP dark tile break 2. I'll go ahead and drag that over. So there's our ceiling now. And one thing you'll notice is we can change these materials as often as we like, but we don't ever actually have to rebuild when we do this. So for instance, I'll go ahead and hit play this level. So we're back to the playing in the editor, and the outside we haven't applied any textures or materials to, but as soon as we step inside, you can hear the footsteps have changed the moment we stepped on top of this floor. If we were to shoot at the wall, we would still see the same markings and everything that's applied as you would see if it were still the blue and white checkered tile. And so we can very quickly go in there and, just browsing through the content browser, find different kinds of materials that we might want to use in our level and change them out freely as we like without having to rebuild the level at all. Now, you can use any materials you want to go ahead and decorate the rest of your surfaces. Let's go ahead and also look at some other ways that we might go ahead and select different surfaces. So last time, if we wanted to select multiple surfaces, we were just holding Control and clicking on multiple surfaces. But we can also, for instance, just go ahead and click this interior of this door here that we have. And if we go to right-click and choose Select Surfaces, You can say to select all surfaces, or you can have things organized by groups or other matching items or matching brushes or anything you'd like, really, but that's in this listing here. But as well, since we know that this doorway was created with a single brush, that subtractive brush that we used, we can also just say matching brush, and now it's just automatically selected all of the interior surfaces of our door here. And so if we go ahead and go back to our content browser, and I'll go ahead and use that same material that we used on the ceiling. I think it was this dark tile here. I'll go ahead and drag it over, and it automatically applied. Oop, it should have. Looks like I lost control of that. It's a little hard to do this when I'm recording the video, but you can select multiple surfaces. Ah, there we go. So it went ahead and applied it then. So having selected multiple surfaces using select surfaces, we were able to apply the material to the interior of that doorway all at once. And likewise, another way to do this, and this is useful if you have a lot of brushes with a lot of surfaces that you want to color with materials all at once, you can do let's see, it is Control, Alt, and left click drag, I believe. Let's go ahead and try this. So Control, Alt, and left click drag. Let's see here. It does not want to do it here while I'm recording the video, but normally you can do a Marquis Selection where you can just create a box, and any surfaces within line of sight inside that box will all be selected simultaneously. And I'll demonstrate that in class since it's not cooperating while I'm recording the video here. But for the sake of demonstration purposes, I'll go ahead and just start dragging some other materials to our remaining surfaces here. You can choose whatever you like. And sometimes I just like to search for whatever kind of material I'm looking for, like say concrete. If I search for concrete, here's several different forms of concrete. So I'll make a concrete bunker out of this room that we created earlier. So there's the concrete on the exterior. Now I'll go ahead and hit unlit so you can see the outside of the box, and notice it's still just that blue and white checkered pattern. So let's go ahead and select all of these surfaces on the exterior. And I would do select brush, or select surfaces, and then choosing for all of the attached brush like we did for the interior of that doorway. But I'd be a little worried that I might also accidentally select the interior of that hollow box that we used to create our room, since that's all one brush. And so I will select them all individually. Oh, and it looks like I accidentally added a brush over there by pressing Control A on accident. I will get rid of that in a moment. Now that I have the majority of these surfaces selected, though, I'll go ahead and choose concrete to put on there. So I'll right click. Oh, and for some reason it doesn't recognize our material there, so I'll go ahead and add it directly again. There we go. So now the entire exterior of our building is covered with the material M underscore NEC underscore walls underscore BSP underscore concrete 1. And I will go ahead and get rid of that other brush over there. I'll close my content browser. to brush wireframe, select that brush, and we'll delete it. Or cut and paste it. Now it'll still show up in the level until we rebuild the geometry. But let's go ahead and build all. And I'll go ahead and pause the recording for a moment while this is building. And so that took just a moment. I'll go ahead and close. And I'll go back to our normal view. Oh, and I guess I didn't actually delete that brush over there, but we'll not worry about that for a moment. We'll get rid of it in a little bit. So I'll go ahead and play this level in an editor window. So there's that extra brush I accidentally added in there, which we'll delete in just a moment. But here's our level now. And it's looking a lot more like an actual level, not just a framework layout prototype like we had last time before. And you can hear the different footsteps as you walk on the different kinds of materials. If you were to choose a material that was more metallic or something like that, then you would hear clinking footsteps as you walked across it. And it's not very difficult to go ahead and paint your level with different materials then, and I encourage you to be creative and try using combinations of different materials on surfaces. My apologies for that. And then as well, you can use any of the materials that you find in your content browser, but it's common that you would be given a new material from an artist to actually use. So here in a moment, I'll go ahead and just show you how to import your own materials. So I paused the recording for just a moment, and I actually had deleted that brush. It was just when the recording faltered for a moment there, it added several brushes there, so I had to delete all of them. But now our level is clear and back to the way we wanted it. And so now if we wanted to add our own texture, I'm not an artist myself, and I didn't have a whole lot of textures to choose from. Andy Goodwin, who is leading the art students in the other half of this course, has provided me with one texture that I might be able to use for a material. Normally it would be used to apply to a static mesh, but I'll go ahead and use it just as an example for how to create your own materials. So normally if you were going to create a material, you would require a targa file. This is a .tga. That's the prefix or the suffix on the file extension. And normally you would want an image file, a targa image file that was a size that was perfectly square, where the sizes are some power of 2, like 256 by 256, or 512 by 512, or 1024 by 1024. And if you were to use a material that was not perfectly square like that, then you might have scaling issues, or you might have artifacting light on the edges of your shapes that you're applying the material to. But in general, you'd be receiving this file from an artist, or generating the file yourself using Adobe Photoshop or GIMP or whatever you're used to using. But assuming that you have a targa file, in this case I'll go ahead and minimize here. And so I just have a woodcrate.tga file. This is what I received from Andy Goodwin. And so if we want to go ahead and use that as a material, we can go ahead and go to Content Browser. And now when you look on the bottom left hand corner here, there's a section called Packages. And let's go ahead and go to New Packages. And usually whenever you start a new map, it'll automatically if you haven't saved the file yet, it'll have a package called Untitled 0 or Untitled some number, however many untitled maps you've created in that session. That'll be the number that it applies to it normally. Since I already had this map saved as Lab 3, was the name of it, I'll go ahead and select that. And if you look down below, there's the Import button. So we'll import. And I have my Targa file saved to the desktop, so I'll go ahead and choose it from here. Here's the wood crate Targa file. Now the package is lab3. You could make your own packages if you wanted to. You could create, a directory of your own content that you might use for any number of maps, but we'll just go ahead and keep it in the lab3 package for now. And so that we're able to search for it or to filter for it in our content browser, let's go ahead and put this in a group texture. That way, whenever we filter for textures, this will appear among them. And you don't want to change the name at all, because that's important for the file path. So you want to make sure that this name does not change, and we'll keep all the other settings to default. And we'll say OK. Now, we've made a texture here. This is a texture 2D. And we're not able to use it right away because, of course, there's a difference between textures and materials. So we have to create a new material now. So go ahead and right-click on this gray area where content would normally be displayed. You'll have a number of different options here. And we want to choose New Material. Now be careful, don't choose Material Function, don't choose Material Instant Constant, don't choose Material Instance Time Varying. Choose New Material. We'll click on that, and so now we have our window here, and for grouping we'll call this a material, and we can name this what we like, and I'll just call it crate material. I'll do an underscore in there. Crate material. And now that we've done that, let's see here. We'll say OK, and it's going to open up our material editor, which we saw at the very beginning of the video. Now, you'll notice here it's just a blue and white default material so far, but we want to make sure that it shows our texture as the image on that material. So if you go back to your content browser, and we'll go to our texture group, and we'll select this. So we've selected our texture again, and now if we go back to our material editor, and let's see here, we're looking for the textures. Let's see, where is it? There it is. So here's the texture submenu here, and now we're looking for a texture sample. Now under texture sample, now so long as you have the wood crate texture selected in the content browser, we can just take this texture sample and drag it out, and there it is. Now, for instance, if you didn't have it selected though, you could always go down to this texture field right here on the bottom, and once you do have it selected in the content browser, if you hit this green arrow, it'll say use selected object in content browser, and it'll automatically throw that texture into that field. And so now that we have the texture in there, we're going to have to still associate that texture to the diffuse map on this material. So where you see this black node here on the top left, take that and drag it all the way up to diffuse and connect it together. So now you can see here's that material, and we can just go ahead and close it, and it'll say, would you like to apply changes to this material, to the original material? And you say yes. So now we have our new material with that texture on there. And this won't look very good since it's not the appropriate size, but we'll go ahead and drag it. So it doesn't look very good since it wasn't intended for this purpose, but you can use any Targa file, so this is a simple example to show you how you can do the process. And So you can see there we've just created a new material and applied it to a surface there. So that covers how to import your own materials from your Targa files. As well, we learned different ways to select multiple surfaces. We learned how to scale the texture on the material. We learned how to pan it around. We learned if you hold Shift while you're panning, then it'll shift it in the opposite direction. And that about covers what we're going to be doing with materials. And I will see you next time for our lab on static meshes.